What's up, everyone? Thralls Metal here once again. I am Necrotic.
And I am Jammin John.
And we have an album review for you. So yet another one that came out on the 15th of May was Shrapnel's new album, Palace for the Insane. This comes out on Candlelight Records. This is the band's third full-length. They formed in 2009 in Norwich, England, and definitely share a lot of similarities with fellow countrymen Onslaught in terms of just writing awesome fucking thrash metal.
Appropriately titled Palace for the Insane, this record is fucking insane.
Yes. Really irresponsible idea, building a palace for the insane. I just don't think that's a good idea. But anyway.
I don't either, but to each their own. Everybody needs something sometimes.
Not a palace.
Not a palace.
So this album opens up with Might of Cygnus, and right away, I fucking love the production.
Yes. Within the first 5 seconds of the song, it's just, you can hear it. You can just hear this big, rich tone that encompasses everything.
Everything is just mixed very well, and it feels organic and polished at the same time. The drums sound particularly good, especially the bass drum, and has such a great punch to it.
Well, and that snare is just that's such a rich tone to the snare, just rich beef.
And the guitars are particularly well mixed too. I love how just crunchy they sound. The vocals don't sound too processed. They sound very raw and very natural. And this is their first album with their new vocalist, Aaron, who that is the only name I found on Encyclopedia Metal. He's just Aaron with 2 A's. So Aaron.
This song immediately, when it comes in, it's Slayer all the way. That was the very first thing I thought of. Slayer with like a twinge of obituary.
He has like kind of raspiness to his voice. I actually thought he sounded a bit like Kurt Breck from DRI, just because there's almost sort of that crossover punch to it, and there's a lot of stuff that is very comparable to Power Trip in terms of big, chuggy, groovy sections. Like, this is one of the grooviest thrash albums I think I've listened to this year.
Yeah, dude, for real. These guys own a riff farm.
They can retire on it.
It's just riff after riff after riff after riff, and it's all so well put together. Just perfection as far as going from transitions into whatever the next groove may be. They don't slouch in that area at all.
When they write a bridge, it is generally one of the most fluid things on here. Like, the transitions are smooth, the leads come in at the right moments, they give you nice groovy pockets to headbang to.
And the leads aren't overbearing at all. They fit the rhythm behind them. They fit it perfectly, and it's so melodic.
Run around like Vulture Circle, where I really started getting like the Bay Area vibes. There is a huge Testament-like feel on this song. And the crossover bit that comes in, the gang vocals.
Yes.
Gang vocals come in very, like, kind of pocked all over this album, but they're always in a really good spot to really accentuate whatever the main vocalist is doing.
The melodies on the grooves, over the grooves in this song, dude, Maiden.
Oh, yeah.
Every time they do a harmony, it's very Maiden-y.
It is.
Yep.
Like, they really just labor catchy hooks. And, like, every song has a legit hook on here, which I was really just taken back by. Because, generally you're waiting for one track to kind of slouch off or try something maybe that's out of their comfort zone. But everything is very much in their wheelhouse, but it's a big wheelhouse.
That was something I mentioned as well, is that they pay really great homage to their influences. Metallica, Slayer, Anthrax, all that shit. They do really well to pay homage to that, but they still incorporate their own sound into it.
Yeah.
It's very well done.
Nothing on here really sounded borrowed at all. Now, my only exposure to this band was their first album, and while I liked it, this is completely different, especially in terms of the songwriting. That one was way more just about all that aggression up front, very Slayerish. This is about that aggression, but with nuance. Cannibal. Cannibal.
Dude. So we're only like 4 tracks into the album at this point, and normally I don't star tracks with such a frequency, but this track, if I had to go back on all the tracks I did star and pick a track, it would be fucking Cannibal. Just a really nasty, energetic intro.
Tribal rhythms,
yeah, dude,
breakdowns.
Fucking sick. The groove on the verse is just a giant bucket of beef.
The composition on these songs is really remarkable too. Like, even when they're trying to go for something more raw, because later on they go for more fast barn burners kind of back to back with Infernal Choir and The Mace. Both of these songs are very Slayer, Sodom, aggression, and less about the melody. And I like the tonal shift because before that you had some really epic tracks, and that kind of goes on play with the pacing of this album, which is perfect, really. They space out these moments enough to where they don't get static. They don't sound like, oh, I've already heard this.
But they're so good at writing riffs that when it does take you back to something that might have held familiarity, it's not readily noticeable because it's a whole new riff structure and a whole new take on where they want to go next from the previous transition.
One of the things this album does very well is combine more raw thrash with like more mature songwriting.
Yeah.
So pretty much like take like those early Bay Area thrash albums, like Bonded by Blood. It's just raw, it's aggressive. But you take maybe some like later stuff like Megadeth's Rust in Peace, where there's definitely more songwriting flash, more dynamics, more versatility in terms of what they're trying to throw in there.
In fact, Rust in Peace is such a good idea because a couple songs in here, as far as it gets down to like just the groove, the overall groove, and that punch of that faster thrash groove reminds me of that album all over the place.
Begin Again is a prime example of this. Before that song, we were graded to just heaviness, riffs, some really cool melodies, but nothing that really got a bit softer. This one actually opened up with like an ambient intro.
Yeah, dude, it was like
pianos.
It sounded like piano being played over like ocean waves.
Yep, exactly what I thought.
Quietly crashing ocean waves. It's really somber, but then it just cuts into this massive sludge riff. The riffs on this album remind me a lot of COC's work around like Deliverance, Wise Blood era.
And it is notably a little bit slower. This one has such a cool signature riff with that big sludgy riff. And the thing I liked is when they go into the bridge for all the solos, because the solos are fiercely 80s and majestic on this song. They incorporate that bend in that main riff that's also in that bridge now too. And even go into this remarkably Tool-ish moment where the bass takes the lead.
Yeah, dude, the bass really takes a shining on this. They definitely do well to showcase the bass player, and the tone the bass player uses is tits for that moment.
It is. It's once again very like Justin Chancellor-ish. Like it's kind of moody and ambient, and then there's these cool, very ambient guitars that come in on top of it. Like this is one of the most distinct moments on this album. And it has such an impact because it builds well into the next moment.
And when the lead comes in, the lead work reminds me a lot of Randy Rhoads.
Yes. It's one of those fiercely 80s leads where you see the guy with, like, the unbuttoned shirt or he's just wearing a leather vest and no shirt.
Right, and there's a fan that's just blowing his
wind.
Hair.
There's a factory with fucking sparks.
Yep.
Whatever.
Yep.
It's that kind of lead. It's fiercely 80s, and it's just gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. The song for me that reminded me the most of Megadeth, I think, was Turn Off the Lights. The verse groove reminded me a lot of Pantera.
Yeah, it
like
has that
primal concrete sledge type thing.
Now the title track, the last track, I thought was really interesting because instead of going with a big epic closer, like, just this giant long song, they went with a really kind of classic thrashy barn burner as well. This one I think is one of the heaviest tracks on here. It has almost a Sepultura-like feel, especially with the lead work. There's a lot of wah-drenched dissonant leads. Definitely reminds me a lot of Andreas. It has like that Arise feel, which if an album reminds me of Arise, there's a good fucking chance I'm going to love it.
Sure.
Now, like I said, instead closing with a thrashy barn burner, kind of like, Damage Incorporated or Dyer's Eve, we get a bigger song before that with Future Sight.
The vocals just immediately. It's a great nod to Matt Barlow from Iced Earth.
Yep.
I couldn't place it immediately, and the more I got into it, I was like, no, hold on. Iced Earth it is.
It is a more baritone range, and there's like gruffness to it. I heard it right away as soon as you said Iced Earth. Like, dude, it's Matt Barlow.
And the leads in this are as tasty as the schnozberries on Willy Wonka's wall. It flows so well. The tone they use makes it almost like liquidic in a sense.
This was one that I thought the clean vocals actually were pretty solid. There were some spots on this album where I thought the cleaner vocals could have been a little bit better. Namely, Begin Again, there are parts there where I think it really required a more epic shift.
Sure.
And didn't quite get there. He has that gruffness to his voice, and I think his range is maybe a little bit more limited. But the rest of the album, he's just nailing it across the board with just this awesome thrashy bark and the gang vocals that come along with it.
His cleans aren't bad, but they miss that higher register that classic thrash has. Like, Joey Belladonna. So.
And the fact that there's so much melody on those songs where he does the clean vocals, it makes me think that there should be just like something a little bit more.
Yep.
But outside of that, I think This album is just disgusting.
I really, I'm going to be honest, this is going to make my end of year list.
I think this even rivals Warbringer's Weapons of Tomorrow, which I think is one of the best thrash albums that has come out this year so far. I'm going to go ahead and give this one 4.5 stars because it's just fucking awesome. This is just solid thrash, and I'm going to go ahead and say it again. This is probably going to be a banner year for thrash.
For real.
It pretty much has everything you're looking for in thrash. Tons of killer riffs, big hooks, snarled, grizzled attitude. It's just out to fuck you up but dazzle you with all sorts of fucking cool, shreddy leads at the same time. Killer release.
Yep. I'm also going to give it 4.5 stars, and to be honest, I had at least a 4-star rating 30 seconds into the album, and it never disappointed me from there. Just song after song after song, after riff after riff after riff, after the most tasty leads I've heard in quite some time, especially for a thrash album.
Oh, God.
Like, they just left no stone unturned. It was a constant headbanger. Just the whole record, I never stopped moving.
Yeah.
And that's a good sign to me of a really good record. It means it's going to get played again just for that energy alone. I really have no complaints.
You checked all the boxes, and you got the extra credit answer.
Yeah, for real. Whoever turned in this paper did a damn good job.
So, if you like the review, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe because we do shit like this all the time.
And we have an Instagram page if you weren't totally aware from the last 12 videos where we mentioned an Instagram page. It's doing really well, actually. I've had a lot of contact with a lot of fucking awesome people and bands across the world. It's opening up a lot for Thralls to be able to continue forward to give you guys such, pretty solid material. So, again, if you are a newer band or just stuck in the underground or you just can't seem to get that push you've been looking for, shoot me a line and I will, as soon as humanly possible, get to it and review your albums. So thank you very much for the people that have come. Thank you to the bands and the support we have. We fucking appreciate it.
Thank you guys for watching.
Later.